really you're talking about a surface layer, meaning what our attention is, just what that is. I think for the most part, we look at that as just a singular thing. Well, my attention's just my attention. The idea that attention can develop, can grow, that there is more within you, that attention is really just a surface layer of a whole, something much bigger. That, and yet we never even get through the surface because it's constantly stolen from us. The fact that there is another world within us that can be found, but you need the attention, your own attention to do it. To me, that's kind of the biggest sort of secret is, wow, if I really, there's something I'm missing out on, but it requires this fuel in a way, which is the most valuable thing I have, which is my attention, that I'm constantly selling. You pay with your attention. It means your attention is really the only thing of value, the main thing of value within you. Mm-hmm. If I want to take something from you, I take your attention. That's who you are. I'm taking you. So yeah. Where that goes when you're not constantly giving it away and selling it and whatever, it's the beginning of a path, I guess is the...
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not this fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
We are off and running. Hello and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain. I have another delicious guest for you today to chat with. He is an Emmy Award winning actor, filmmaker, writer and producer. His name is Michael Goorjian. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you.
He is, let me tell you what he's done. His credits are as an actor. He's been in Party of Five, Leaving Las Vegas, SLC Punk, and he is a filmmaker and achieved widespread recognition for a film that I discovered him in recently that I just loved called Illusion, starring Kirk Douglas, who is 100. Did you know that Kirk Douglas is 100 and he's still alive like that? Because after I watched the film, I kind of stalked you online and thought, who is this guy? And is Kirk Douglas still alive? And all that sort of stuff you do. And he's still alive and he's 100. That's amazing. How old was he when he was in your film?
I think he was, 2006. He was about 90. He was 89, I think, when we shot with him.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Look, I just loved the film. But what I found when I stalked you online was that you've just written a great book, which you sent me and I read, called What Lies Beyond the Stars. But what excited me about you was when I was watching the movie, I was enjoying your acting, thinking, God, this guy's deep. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. And then at the credits, I found out that you wrote and produced the film and started it. And I'm like, who is this guy? And found out that you also produced and directed Hay House documentary, Louise Hay's film, You Can Heal Your Life, and Wayne Dyer's film, The Shift. Mm-hmm. So, you're one of the sort of new agey tribe. one of the tribe. Yeah. How did you get into exploring consciousness and, what was your journey, Michael?
Wow. Well, there's many answers to that question. I would just say I've always had a curious mind. I grew up, my father's a scientist, works for NASA. And so I think somewhere between science and philosophy, and then just having a deep longing to know why I'm alive, why I'm here, what life is all about, drove me into reading a lot and discovering, different things. And so I would say it roots out of curiosity.
Yeah. Well, actually, that was my journey as well. But a lot of people, have their awakening moment through an illness or a near-death experience, right, or a divorce or some trauma. Actually,
Right.
and you explore that in your book. Like that's the journey of the character in your book. He's going through some trauma and he starts, the trauma pushes him to ask different questions. And but that didn't happen for you. It's just a curious mind. It was like, why are we here? What are we doing here? And where did we come from? And all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I did, I had asthma as a child, and I know
I'm laughing because I did too.
Oh yeah.
Oh
And
my
I grew
God.
up in the 70s, and so, inhalers didn't exist when I was a baby. They were kind of invented while I was a toddler, I guess. So anyways, I had a lot of experimental asthma medicines and things, and just a lot of growing up with that. It wasn't a life or death experience per se, but I would say that it's true, at least for me, that a lot of my sort of hunger to understand and curiosity about life and bigger questions did come from some of the struggles or the trauma that I went through as a kid. I think that definitely drives a lot of people, including myself. I would think that was a bit of a cause.
Yeah. Well, for many, it seems to be the cause. As Esther would say, the contrast in life, the dramas in life, push you to give birth to desire. And then that desire that you give birth to, like when you're sick, you say, I want to be well. And when you're lonely, you say, I want to be, not lonely. And when you're poor, you say, so that desire takes you down a path to find out how you can achieve that. And it took you down this sort of spiritual path, I suppose. How did you get in contact with Louise Hay and come to make the documentary?
So as you mentioned, Illusion, the film that I made with Kirk Douglas, when that was done, a company called Gaiam bought it, which is, I think, how you saw it, right? Through the Gaiam channel. So through that, I met a guy named Gay Hendricks, who's a therapist and wonderful, wonderful man. And he really enjoyed the film. And he had just written a book for Hay House, I believe. And he was the one who came to me and said, do you have any interest in doing a documentary about Louise Hay? And I actually had no idea who she was at the time.
Okay.
And,
So you're like well and truly entrenched in mainstream. It's funny because I grew up with Louise Hay, right? And when I say to my mainstream friends, to me, she's a rock star. And
right.
Who? I'm like, really?
Yeah. Well, the same was true with Wayne. When I first met him, I had no idea who he was. And, since have become very good friends with, or had wonderful relationships with both of them. But with Louise, he had an idea, wanted to make a documentary about her. And making independent films is tough. Making Illusion, I made that sort of piecemeal. I shot, the way the film is done is there's 3 different sort of segments of the son's life. I play the son, and I shot each one of those separately. I shot one section, and then I used what I shot to raise money to do the next one, and then use that to raise money to do the next one. And then after I'd shot all the son stuff, then I went out and to get an actor to play the father. And so the stuff with Kirk Douglas, we shot like 2 years after we shot everything else.
Wow, really?
Yeah. But it was a very, I did it on credit cards and borrowed money. And actually the camera we shot on, I borrowed from Francis Coppola. Francis Ford Coppola lives near where I live in California. And a woman who works for him was producing the film for me. And he had a camera that was lying in a warehouse. And she's like, well, we could probably use it. Let's just... So eventually he found out that we borrowed the camera, and he ended up supporting me and, giving me good support with the film.
It's not easy, the film industry. It's not easy.
No, but it was it was a very kind of scrappy, just doing it, just trying to make something happen.
Well, I want to, give you my critique on it, because I was a member of Spiritual Cinema Circle for a long time and watched a lot of those sort of independent, new agey, spiritual, uplifting movies, because I didn't want to watch the crap that was on television. And I found many of them so hard to watch because they were so, how can preachy. I be nice about this? Well, not preachy. It's just the production quality was so bad, Right. I mean, some of them were preachy, some of them weren't. And, some of them had a brilliant message, but the way they were portrayed, it's not easy putting your message in a movie that's going to be engaging and heart-opening and enlightening. This is not an easy combination. It's not an easy, menu. I know. Recipe, I should say. So when I was watching Illusion, I was like really loving it, because I'd been watching some other stuff on Gaia that was kind of heavy, and I just thought, I want to watch something better. I want to watch like a movie. And at the end of it, I was so uplifted. I was just so happy, and that feeling of happiness that the movie gave me made me, research you, like, who is this guy? And so that was my 2 cents worth. I actually thought the production was really good.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, and this actually getting to working with Louise Hay and then Wayne Dyer and then even the book, this plays into it a lot in that. So I've always, first and foremost, I am an artist. I love being creative as an actor, as a writer, as a filmmaker. I really love good art. I care about it. And with making Illusion, I didn't set out to make a spiritual film. A lot of the ideas in it came from things I care about, but I try to make a good movie first. And then the message was underneath, buried within the art or the story. And to me, that's what, and I've had many conversations with people who made, I know all the people in the spiritual cinema world. And I'm a very big proponent for, you've got a message, great, be an artist first. Make a good movie first and have the message inside. Don't have the message be on top. Because if you don't care about the art, if you don't make a good movie, like you said, you have all these things that, like, the production isn't very good. To me, that doesn't serve anybody. So with Illusion, we made the film as best we could, but the message in it, was something that was about deeper things. It got the attention of Gay Hendricks and other people, and Gay brought me to Hay House. And so with the Louise Hay film, after doing Illusion, I was dead broke because making movies like that, that's what happens. So I was like, I'll take any job. I don't care. Sure. Louise Hay sounds great. So I really went into it just as a hired hand. I was like, wow. I just need a job. And I remember meeting her for the first time. Gay drove me down to San Diego, to Carlsbad, where they are. And it was the best job interview I've ever had in my life. I basically walked in with Gay Hendricks and Louise and Reed Tracy, who's the CEO there, were sitting at a table. And said, Michael, this is Reed, shook his hand, and this is Louise. And I shook her hand and I said, hi, how are you? And she looked at me and she just kind of stared at me for a while. And she looked at me, and she went, yep, this is going to work. And that was it.
I love it.
I was hired.
He was just reading your soul, honey.
I know.
Your soul. But it's interesting. It's interesting that they pick someone like you that was, as you say, not into it, when there are so many film directors out there that are into it, like really into it.
Right.
Kind of.
Yeah. Well, and she, my nickname was Newbie. She would say, "Oh, you're a newbie, honey. You'll understand. You'll get it after a while. You'll understand what we're talking about." So shooting, with that, I again approached it kind of. It was a documentary, and there was a lot of information that Reed and Louise wanted to get across, but I tried my best to add some artistic elements to it. And then with that one, we did have a little bit of a sort of narrative thread. There's a woman who's walking on paths throughout the movie, and
I think I read you said to her, you have to put a story. It just can't be all talking heads and like. actually the documentary is very much the message in that. But and then you came to it with like, let's wrap the message around a story. So you put the woman in there. Is that right?
Yeah. And then from there, with going from that to Wayne Dyer's film, The Shift, I kind of was like, can I play a little bit more? Can we try to find a way to make it even more, narrative, so that it's enjoyable to watch and not just somebody telling you about what to do and everything. And so the concept or the conceit for The Shift, actually, it came from a film I did when I was like a teenager. I was messing around with the camera, and I like the whole idea of having a film crew be the cast. And so with The Shift, the idea is Wayne Dyer is himself, and the film crew were all actors, and they're going to interview him about his new book. And he's interviewed, and so he gets to talk about his ideas and stuff. But then you also see the film crew's reaction to it. And then, after they film him, they're at a picnic table talking about, well, I don't know if I buy what he's talking about here or there. Then there's nice contrast and conflict and stuff. So that one is much more story driven, and I think works quite well. A lot of people like that film. But again, it was trying to make it a movie, artistic, with a message inside of it, versus just here is a message, here's a bunch of ideas. And,
you'd probably say that the same for writing too, writing your message down, like wrap it around a story.
Yeah. Well, then, with the book that I wrote, What Lies Beyond the Stars, that actually started as a screenplay I wrote many years ago, that never got made. And
it kind of reads a little like a screenplay too, because I kept seeing the movie. Like I guess everyone does that when you write a book, but really strongly, I kept seeing the movie. And the only frustration I had was there was so much description and dialogue that I wanted the story to continue. Like, what happens next? Stop talking. I want to know what happens next. That was my impatient mind, right? But it read a bit like a screenplay. I just want to get back to Illusion for a minute.
Yeah, sure.
You said that you didn't make it as a spiritual movie, but the concepts in it, like he's looking at his Akashic record, like, sitting there watching a movie of his son's life play out. So the storyline is there's a rich Hollywood producer, director, film person, lots of money, that never marries and have children, but he knocks up some woman when he's quite old and she's quite young, and she has this baby, and he just ignores it and says, deal with it. And at the end of his life, he's like going over his life, and then a spirit guide, a dead friend turns up. I mean, you say it's not a spiritual movie. Like, a dead friend turns up and says, hey, g'day. And he goes, are you dead? And he goes, yeah, I'm kind of dead, but I'm not really dead. And shows him some movies of his son's life that he never saw. And he's sitting in a movie cinema watching. And I'm just thinking, he's just looking through the Akashic records. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because when I was exploring all this stuff and thinking about what life is, because you called the movie Illusion, one of my favorite books of all time was written by
Richard Buck,
who I've interviewed, and God bless Richard Buck, Illusion. But I was sitting in a cinema one day thinking about how we're all just light and love. It's all light and love, right? And then we're projecting this light into this illusion we call life, and we're perceiving it through our apparatus, that is limited, that turns it into what we perceive as reality. But I was sitting in a cinema one day contemplating this, and I looked up to see this stream of white light above me. And then as I followed the light, it was creating this illusion on the screen. And it just dawned on me that, oh my God, this is life, like this is who we are. We are in this movie. We are this light and looking up and seeing this white light, which is, I remembered that as I was watching the movie, because he's sitting in the cinema and then watching this, not a spiritual movie. Yeah, right.
Well, it's definitely a spiritual movie. I would say my intention was to make a good movie, first and foremost, but to me, a good movie is about deep ideas. And you know, the film is actually based on a play by French Pierre Corneille, who wrote El Cid, and it's like from 1850, 1860, I think. And in the play, it's about an old man who had an illegitimate son and never knew who he was, and goes to a magician who then conjures up theatrical descriptions of what his son's life has been like. And as the play goes on, he goes from not caring about who his son was to wanting to help his son. And so we took that and transferred it to what the film is. And yeah, the idea of the Akashic records, and there's a record of everyone's life, and then going, you know, creatively just thinking, well, what would that look like? Would it be home movies? Would it be like, you know, video on Skype? No, they would be romantic. They would be like old, you know, beautiful old films. They would have nostalgia to them. And so the idea of an old cinema and having these dirty old reels of like, oh, here's you as a teenager. Mm. And me as a teenager looks like a teen film. You know, it has a feel to the feeling of it, and the feeling that you can get with film. To me, that's more the record than facts. It's less about facts and more about the essence. And so that's kind of why we went down the path we did with it.
Well, definitely memories wrapped around feeling. When you look back at your life, what you remember is usually attached to a strong feeling, be it a good one or a bad one. But it's like that's you know, that's the point. Hello.
Hello. Those are the neighbors.
Hello, neighbors.
Yeah, hello. Yes, that's true. Yeah, with Illusion, that's kind of what we tried to explore there, I guess.
Well, it was great, and I suggest everyone go out and watch it. Can people get it if they're not, you know, connected to Gaia?
I think you can get it on Amazon. You can get it through Amazon. Things have changed so much in terms of distribution. Is it on Netflix? It's not streaming on Netflix. It might be streaming on Amazon. It's out there. We just search Illusion, Kirk Douglas.
Put it on Netflix. My daughter's obsessed with Netflix at the moment. I shouldn't be giving a plug for Netflix. Anyway, the book.
Yes.
The book. I actually wanted to talk, but like all creative people, you like to talk about your creations and not your life. But I actually wanted to talk more about your life, but you've kind of skipped over that.
Oh, I'll talk as much as you want about.
Okay, so where did the idea for the character come for the book? So let's just give people a bit of an outline of this character.
Sure.
Is it related to your life at all?
I don't think there's a writer out there that wouldn't say what they write has nothing to do with them. Absolutely, it's you know, related to me. But all the characters in the book are facets of me in various ways. All right, let me tell you a little bit of the history of the book, of how it came about, and that'll give you a sense how it's connected to me. I actually wrote, so I was an actor for many years doing television and film, and I kind of got not turned off by Hollywood, but I think I was acting in a lot of things that I didn't really care about. They weren't projects that I personally would watch, or they were about things that, you know, okay, CSI number 12, we're investigating another crime. I was doing a lot of stuff that was, other people would be like, wow, you're on that show, but I didn't really care about them that much. So from that, I got into writing and directing and thought, well, I want to make my own things. And very early on, I wrote a script called Beatrice, and it was loosely inspired by, this is a bit abstract, but Hermann Hesse. Do you know Hermann Hesse? Demian and Siddhartha. He also, so in Demian, there's a chapter called Beatrice, and it's about a young boy. The main character in Demian sees a girl in a park, and he kind of falls in love with her, but he's too shy to talk to her. So he doesn't talk to her. And the next day he shows up and she's not there. And the next day she's not there. And so he starts drawing pictures of this girl, and he names her Beatrice from Dante's The Divine Comedy. Beatrice is the angel that leads Dante from Purgatorio to Paradiso. So he names her Beatrice, and he's drawing these pictures of her. And later in the book, Damien, he's older and he finds a bunch of old pictures that he's drawn, and they're of this girl, and he's looking at them, and he realizes as he's drawn these pictures, they slowly become more and more his own face. So you can interpret that as narcissism, I guess. Or you could also say that love is really a reflection of discovering one's own self, or something deeper in oneself.
Actually, that's what I loved about the book, because I thought, is this going to be another book where some, woman saves some guy? And I thought, I hope not, because, we need to save ourselves. But anyway, that didn't happen. Yes. Yeah, go on. Please go on.
So that is what inspired this screenplay that I wrote 20 years ago. And I tried to get it made. It didn't it was one of those Hollywood disasters where I had the money, and then I had Michelle Williams, the actress Michelle Williams, and myself were going to be in it. It all fell apart. And after that, I went, okay, I left Hollywood, came back to the Bay Area, San Francisco, where I'm from, and I made Illusion. And then from Illusion, I did other films, started working with Hay House. And then after I did this final project with Hay House, Reed Tracy, the CEO there, asked, well, what do you want to do next? And I was looking through old stuff, and I found this old screenplay I'd written, Beatrice, inspired by that chapter in Endymion. And I read it, and I was like, well, I'm glad I never made it, because now I look at it and I'm like, oh God, this is horrible. But I read it, and I was like, there's an essence here that I think is quite good. I think could be good. And I talked to Reed about it, and he said, well, you have any interest in writing a novel? I thought they had recently merged. They started their fiction division, Visions, I think it's called, Hay House Visions. And I said, well, I don't know. Sure, why not? So I agreed to turn it into a novel, and I thought it would take me a year. It ended up taking me 4 years.
It's a long book. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, it took a long time. But that's how it came about. And now in terms of because it's something that has been with me a long time, the end novel, I put a lot of my own things I've learned, stuff I care about, ideas that I think are important, have kind of all gone into the book. It's still at its base. It's a sort of a mystery thriller, love story, something, I don't know what you would call it, but it's still a story. Mystery,
thriller, love story. It's all those things.
Yeah.
I think it's the people that are attracted to my show are they're into it. They're talking aliens, they're talking secret space programs, they're talking life after death, they're talking Akashic record, they're into it. Most of them. But with all of that, there's a really important message, which is the message that I teach, which I call deliberate creation. It's the same message Abraham Hicks teaches. It's about how we create. And in this book, I think that that's the main message of this book, which I find really exciting. And we do it through our attention, like what we're focusing on, what we give our attention to. There's a great old saying that says the road to hell's paved with good intentions, because a lot of spiritual teachers will say, it's your intention. Like Wayne used to say this, your intention. And we have our intention is our desire. Like, I intend to make this movie and it didn't happen, there is this intention. Mm-hmm. But it's this attention that is really the most powerful part of all this. And this is what the book's about. And, what I love about it is it's so current, because it's all about the tech industry. And then he meets this sort of gluten-free yoga teacher. I'm surrounded by gluten-free yoga teachers. You know, like, it's just so current. And, you know, I've just written down a couple of quotes out of the book. And so for a lot of people waking up, which is where we are in our timeline right now, like I've been one of those new age hippies since I was 15. So people have been calling me crazy for years and I'm used to it. But there are a lot of people waking up. And this is what they're asking. I want to know who I am. I want to know why I'm here. I want to know what I'm supposed to do, really supposed to do. Like, this is the question your character asks. And I, you know, I get that a lot from the people, my clients. Like, I want to know who I am. I want to know I want to know what I'm supposed to do, because I think so many people know that they're here to make a difference, but they just don't know how that looks. Like, I mean, how does that look? And like you, they might be working for the man and feel like, I am so not making a difference. In fact, I'm probably more of the problem than the solution.
Right.
So that's what I loved about it.
I thank you. I one of my intentions, so to speak, was I really loved what I guess you would call spiritual fiction or philosophical fiction growing up. So I read all of Hermann Hesse, Richard Bach, you name it, I've read it. Zen of motorcycle maintenance, like anything that was. And the thing is that I read a lot of nonfiction as well, but there's something about fiction, the story, that just, for me, resonated deeper. So Richard Bach's book, the fact that it's not real, it allowed something to go past my brain and more into my heart. And so because of that, I've always felt like, well, Demian is a great book, or Steppenwolf, or I'm talking about Hermann Hesse, Siddhartha. But the only problem is that they all take place not in my world. Yeah. And there have been these quintessential books like Way of the Peaceful Warrior or throughout the years. And they really, like Way of the Peaceful Warrior was fantastic. It was in the 80s. Yeah. To have a spiritual book that's present, so much of the struggle that we face right now is modern. It's this computer, it's technology, it's my darn cell phone, and how much it's constantly stealing my life. So to me, part of my intention was I care about these deeper ideas and love stories that explore philosophical ideas, but to write something current that addresses what we're struggling with now felt like an important, something I wanted to tackle, which is what I try to do in the book. Because another side of where the book came from, I remember having a conversation with a friend about this interesting idea with attention, that currently, and this is kind of in the book, attention, you can really look at the current economy. Things run on attention now in terms of currency. Gold, money, land, none of these make a difference. Attention is what we buy and sell. The next startup that comes around, Twitter or whatever, these things are worth billions and billions of dollars before they even sell anything. It's because the amount of attention they've garnered. So all of what's valuable right now, it's really, we run on an economy of attention. So that's on one side of the equation. We're buying and selling each other's attention. It's constantly being stolen from us, all that. Then on the other side of the equation, this is the interesting part that my friend and I were talking about, was if you look at every single spiritual tradition, the major religions, but every belief system, or I would even say more mystic sort of traditions, there's always at the core is some kind of practice that deals with the focusing of one's attention inwardly, whether it's prayer, meditation, whatever. Attention is the fuel, in a way, for a type of inner work or inner struggle that's needed to grow inwardly. And yet, on the other side, modern life is all about stealing that away from us, constantly pulling it away from us. So to me, that just went, oh, Star Wars is great in terms of the dark force and the light force. This is the real Star Wars going on. The real good and evil is in that struggle, is represented in that struggle. And so that's kind of, to me, was at the heart of thematically what I was trying to sort of tackle in the book.
And yeah, you do it well. But, you know, one of the first, I used to put out reminders from home quotes every week. I did that for years. And one of the first ones I ever wrote or channeled was attention. Pay attention. We say to people, pay attention, pay attention. And I said, why is attention something that we pay for, that we're paying? Because what we give our attention to, we're buying into our life. And what we're buying into our life, we're literally buying into it. We're creating, right? We're creating it with our attention. As I said, you know, intention, attention. We intend to create one thing, but we're focused on another. Like we intend to be rich, but we're focused on how we've got no money. So that attention, like we're buying it into our life. So it is the creative process, what we're giving our attention to. And as you say, there's so much stealing that attention. There's so much stealing that attention. And marketing is, you know, I can't watch television anymore because every ad on television is telling you how you haven't got enough, that you can't have what you want. You've got to work hard. You're not pretty enough. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not enough. You're just not enough. And that's an attention-seeking thing. And they're taking our attention with their big flashy ads. And right. That's why I watch kind of spiritual cinema type stuff, because I don't want my attention to be focused on what I am not. I want my attention to be focused on what I am.
Right.
And as you say, you really find that inside, you know.
Well, I also think, yeah, I also think that that other direction that attention can go, really you're talking about a surface layer, meaning what our attention is, what that is, I think for the most part, we look at that as just a singular thing. Well, my attention's just my attention. The idea that attention can develop, can grow, that there is more within you, that attention is really just a surface layer of a whole, something much bigger. That, and yet we never even get through the surface because it's constantly stolen from us. The fact that there is another world within us that can be found, but you need the attention, your own attention to do it. To me, that's kind of the biggest sort of secret is, wow, if I really, there's something I'm missing out on, but it requires this fuel in a way, which is the most valuable thing I have, which is my attention, that I'm constantly selling. You know, you pay with your attention. It means your attention is really the only thing of value, the main thing of value within you. Mm-hmm. If I want to take something from you, I take your attention. That's who you are. I'm taking you. So yeah. Where that goes when you're not constantly giving it away and selling it and whatever, it's the beginning of a path, I guess, is the thing. Understanding that that's the beginning of a new direction. And once you start to see that, there's, you know, a lot opens up, I guess.
I'm going to read a couple of things out of the book.
Sure.
Our existence is not only the thing at stake. Human beings are a part of a much larger system. And like the other life form that came before us, we arose on this planet to serve a very different, definite purpose, one we've lost touch with. Then there's another quote. One human is capable of making all the difference. One life may be all it takes to tip the balance. Good stuff. And but there is another part to who we are, a side that you could say we have lost touch with almost entirely. Sometimes we experience in moments of great crisis, which was what we talked about, or in the presence of an extraordinary beauty or great love. Maybe there is an earthquake, or maybe there is a moment your child is born, or something for no apparent reason at all. You simply step off a plane into a new country and look around and realize, I'm here, I'm me. And in that moment, it is as if this other self appears. For a moment, you are alive and in a completely different way, and then it's gone. Some of the quotes out of the book. Don't you love this stuff?
Sure, go for it.
This is the defining quote in the book for me, anyway, because it's got the name in it. Once you learn to see beyond the stars, she whispers, you begin to understand that anything you give our attention to, anything we can dream, can become real. To me, that's the defining quote. Anything you do, anything that you can dream can become real. Because I think that's what we're all doing down here, you know, like we're all these creative geniuses coming into a very contrasting, limited environment, third-dimensional environment, to play with the tools that we have here to continue creating. Like, you know, the masterpieces are life, not just our movies and our books and our interviews and our paintings and our work. It's, you know, the masterpieces are life, and can the two intermingle? Can the two coexist together as the same story? Really, is that what you're doing with your life?
Yeah, I think so. I'm still figuring it out. I think that, yeah, I mean, we live in a very weird time. And not to get back to technology, but technology in regards to the amount of, there's a great freedom, which is wonderful in one respect, of sharing and telling, and the border between life and art blurring. But I think there's a kind of, there's the sacred and there's the profane. There's quite a bit of profane out there in terms of, you know, just sharing. Is reality TV really good TV? Is sharing posts and making, you know, little videos of my life and this and that, is that filmmaking? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes something's captured and it's authentic. But at the same time, I think the idea of refinement and looking at art and one's life as a refinement, refining and finding depth through a kind of struggle. To me, that seems like the direction both of life and art. And what I mean by that is, you know, sometimes I go, oh God, I spent 5 years writing a book, and now I'm spending another, you know, probably another 5 years writing another book, or writing, working on a film. And I have friends who make like write 10 books in a year, or 10, you know, make 10 films. And I'm like, oh my gosh, am I just slow? But the idea of the quality in life, especially when everything is so immediate and so disposable, I think there's something there for that I'm exploring personally. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. And so as an artist, that's informing my life to a degree.
So what struggles have you been through that's sort of woken you up? What were the challenges that, apart from the questioning mind and asthma, what were some of the challenges? Because I've been exploring that a lot, because we do live in this contrasting environment. Do we need challenges to wake us up or to think differently? Or can life be easier than that? Like, does the struggle need to exist?
Well, when I say struggle, I think, you know, to me, those big moments, those big things, when you survive them, they're blessings. because they do that. You know, it's an outside influence that shakes you and goes, wake up. Really the big challenge is the small things. It's the daily life. It's the small habitual mechanical behavior in my life that I'm constantly struggling against. To be able to remember to struggle against those things, that's the biggest challenge. So I don't know if I'm really answering your question. I'm sort of answering it by not answering it. To me, it's not the big things. It's the trying to be present to, you know, my son in the morning when I'm playing with him with a train on the floor. To me, that's like going to war with myself, to really be there with him, not be thinking about, oh, I need to email that person, or I need to do this or that. And I know it sounds small and petty, but it's not. That's really the biggest struggle in life, in a way.
So giving your attention to the moment, like giving your attention to the moment and not thinking, I need to answer that email, like giving your attention to the moment you're sitting on the floor with your son playing the track. Because, I mean, that's what kids do, right? Their attention is in the moment. They're usually not thinking about what do I want for lunch, or what am I going to do tomorrow, or, you know, I fell over yesterday. They're like completely engaged in the now, which Eckhart Tolle has been writing about and inspiring people, you know, thousands, millions of people all over the world, that the power of now. So
yeah, that to me is having been around, you know, I've had the weird life of, I've met so many luminary people, from Eckhart Tolle, Louise Hay, Esther Hick, I'm all these great people. And what I've realized is the messages and the ideas that everybody's expressing are pretty commonly, they're not that hard to understand here, but to live them, to actually live them in life, that's the challenge. That's and why is it so hard to, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know how I'm supposed to live, how I'm supposed to eat, all those things. I get the answer. Wow, I understand it. How can I actually be that way? And that's a lifelong journey.
Yeah, you said it before, actually. It's that habitual mind. It's actually working with the habitual mind. There's a beautiful book that I read. It's a tiny little book written by a woman who was a bit like you. She wasn't a spiritual writer, but she wrote this little book, and then the rest of her work was more sort of creative, artistic work, called The Guru. Anyway, it's about a whole lot of people that are queuing up to go and see the guru. Mm-hmm. Who opens the door, and he looks like the doorman, and people go, I'm here to see the guru, and he usually walks them through the house and opens the back door, and they step out the back door because they don't recognize him as the guru. They just think he's the guy answering the door. Anyway, it's a funny little book, but in the
That's
book,
awesome. I love that.
It's a great book. I have to remember the name of it. He's got his little posse, you know, living in the ashram on the hill, and one of his monk members has the same cup, you know, that he uses every morning for breakfast, or the same bowl, and he sits in the same chair when he comes down, and he has the same, and he's got this routine. And then one day the guru takes his favorite bowl and smashes it, and the guy's like, where's my bowl? And it's like, it broke, and it just knocks him out of his routine. And that's what we fight against, these habitual routine thought, and we get into this sort of like routine.
Yeah.
And that's the habitual mind that the creative mind, you know, fights against, like smokers, or, you know, like, how do I give up this smoking? It's such a habit, or the way we eat, or the way we sleep, or, yeah.
Well, I'm a believer that you can't destroy that nature. That's half of who we are.
But working with it instead of against it.
Yeah, because quite honestly, there's no way I would have been able to write a book without my habitual routines that I was able to craft to be beneficial to me, to be able to write the book. But those same that habitual nature, the pattern, the mechanicalness, that's also the thing that's keeping me from being present with my son, or, you know, these other things. So it's something within us that you don't want to necessarily destroy or get rid of, but how do you work with it? How do you have that coexist? Like in the book, there are the main character, Adam, there are two Adams. There's Adam who has grown up and gone through life and become a tech guy and this and that. And then there's the Adam who's still 6 years old, sitting on a merry-go-round in a playground, who never got to live. And that self, that side, is the side that we're all trying to have wake up and be present in our lives. So.
Yeah, the childhood mind, it's full of wonder. That's full of wonder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have to say, when you watch, not to plug Dyer, but there's a lot of stuff on there that makes you wonder. Have you watched any of the programs on there?
No, I haven't. I mean, I've flipped through a little bit, but I haven't seen much of it. But it's a lot of what kind of stuff?
Oh, I'm not going to go into it. People have to find out.
Hey, my
stuff about the secret space programs making me wonder, I tell you.
Right. Well, the quote that one of my teachers often says is, it's good to have an open mind, but not so open that your brain falls out.
So
that's it.
So who's been, apart from the books, who's been your favorite teacher? You say that you hang out with, you know, they're the rock stars of my world. I don't care about the Hollywood movie stars. I care about people like Esther Hicks and Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer and all those people, you know, they're the rock stars of my world. Who has been one of your favorite teachers?
Gosh, I mean, I would say there's a gentleman named Jacob Needleman who I'm close with, who lives in the Bay Area. He's a philosopher and has written a lot of books in kind of more in the philosophical area. And yeah, I mean, I've met a lot of he's somebody that he's the real deal. I don't know how else to put it. Being in the presence of somebody who's very much awake, you can feel it, and he's somebody who is that. And he's, I think there are a lot of, there are a lot of very well-known people, but there are a lot of people out there that are not that well-known, mm-hmm. Who have great wisdom.
Okay, another quote, and then we'll start to wrap it up. The thing we call ourselves is largely cultural conditioning, which is what we talked about. We take the product of our outside influences to be who we are. I am my name, I am my career, I am my complicated past, my ambitions, my future, my social security number, my credit card debt. And if I ever have doubts about who I am, I've got plenty of relatives and friends with endless pictures to prove it. I think that's hilarious. So what part of the character is you?
Well, let's see. So Adam is, just to give listeners an idea, he works in the tech industry, designing video games. And why the tech industry and why video games? I mean, in a weird way, it's a parallel to my own life in Hollywood, because he's somebody who's basically, I think there are a lot of people out there similar to me who are doing something that's creative, or it's a part of them that is inspired, but what are they serving? And there's a sense of, I'm putting all this effort into making this app that's going to help people get a better parking space. And the creativity of like what I'm doing is great, but then really objectively looking at it and going, is this really what I believe in? Is this, I think there's a lot of people, especially in the tech industry, that are creative people that are kind of serving the wrong master in their mind, and in a way. There are a lot of people that believe in it, in what they're doing, and go, yeah, I really do care about this app. But I think there are a lot of people suffering what I suffered in that respect. So Adam, the main character, working in the tech industry, making video games that he doesn't really believe in. There's a side to Adam, and in the book, there's a whole parallel to butterflies and the idea of the sort of baddie in the book. Ada Klein gives this whole monologue about butterflies and worker bees, and there are a lot of people out there like Adam who are like butterflies that have put a lot of themselves into creating stuff, but they're not. Adam's partner Blake is more the business mind, the guy who knows how to exploit and do stuff, take what Adam created and go out in the world and sell it and make money on it. So I think that sort of longing to being in this life and kind of going along and doing the stuff, but there's a part of me that's going, wait, there's another life I'm meant to be a part of. And that to me, yeah, that's part of me, but I think there are a lot of people out there that feel that way. But like I said, I'm kind of, there are facets of me that are all these characters. And there's definitely a side of me that's like Blake, who feels like a sellout, that is hawking taking my sacred things and just throwing them out there to try to make a buck. And, I guess what I'm saying is that I think we all have different facets to ourselves. And the good thing about writing a novel is you get to kind of turn them into their own little characters.
You get to explore all that. Look, it's a great book for people that are awake, but it's also a great book for people that are awake that are trying to explain to their friends and relatives, what they're into, because it is so mainstream. They can give it as a present to their mainstream friends. And I think that, exactly what you talk about, that I think that desire's in everybody. Like years ago, I had a friend, I started on radio about 5 or 6 years ago with a psychic friend, and she lives on an island, up here and about an hour north of where I am. And to get to her place, you have to be on a boat. Anyway, the two of us were on a boat one day, and we were talking about the different questions of our time. And she said, I think the question of our generation is, how can I make a difference? How can I make a difference? And I've been contemplating that. So I call my tribe the difference makers, the people that are attracted, because they are exploring, like, how can I make a difference? And I think that that's very much in the younger generation. Probably the older generation is, how can I make a buck? And the younger generation is, how can I make a difference? How can I make a buck and a difference? And that's the sort of dilemma that he's exploring.
Yeah. Well, if that question for him, I think, and I guess kind of for me, would be really, it's how to make a difference is, first you have to be. You have to be the difference. How to be. Yeah. There's, before you go out and try to change the world by doing this. And, there's a lot of people that are trying to, especially I'm in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, and everybody's trying to make an impact, and great. But I think we first have to discover who we are first. There's a great challenge there, and to become more conscious and become more, know who you are first, that's the real impact. And it's in the, I think in the book somewhere, the idea of, it doesn't take the entire world. If you can if a certain amount of people become more conscious, I think that in itself will change the balance.
Change the world. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. And it's not about, you've gone and, created an NGO where you're saving all these, all that kind of work, social work is great, is wonderful. But just trying to be more present, the work of me with my son in the morning, I strangely feel like that's kind of the most important work I could be doing in terms of making an impact on the world. is really just trying to be honestly. So
be conscious, be aware, be loving, be connected.
yeah.
That's it. Yeah, all those things. But in everything you do, like in an interview with your son, with your colleagues, with your family, with the people that criticize you, with the family that calls you crazy, with the, be loving, be connected, be in the moment. That's it. That makes the difference. That makes all the difference, which is, going back to that line, one human is capable of making all the difference. One life may be all it takes to tip the balance. I want to say one more thing before we go. Kirk Douglas read the book. He sent you a little note saying, I love it. You're going to make a movie out of it. Is there a part for an 100-year-old guy?
I know.
I'm going to show that. That was just brilliant. But, seriously, you're going to make a movie out of it? I'd so love to do this.
Yeah. We're putting it together. I'm working with some producers to raise money right now. So, unlike Illusion, hopefully I'll be making it not with my credit cards and a stolen camera from Francis Coppola. But yeah, I hope to make it. And then I'm also working on a second. This is meant to be a trilogy. So This is the first book, and I'm writing a second one right now.
So what's the title of the second one? We haven't got the title yet.
Yeah, we do. It's Beneath a Fractured Sky. So not to give away the end of the first book, but yes, the second book is going to go very much deeper into some of the ideas that are explored.
So have you got a producer for it? I mean, I think it's exciting. I'm excited. I'm getting all excited about it because I think it's an important message. It's like what I've dedicated my life to, and I kind of put these shows on to have that, talk about that. Like I talk about all sorts of things, Bosnian pyramids and all sorts of things, but it's that.
Are there pyramids in Bosnia?
Yeah. Watch my last interview.
I'll have to go back to Bosnia.
But, presenting that sense of wonder too, that because, that line in your book, when I was a young 18-year-old backpacking around the world, I got a job for a youth hostel. What did we call ourselves? We used to hustle people, the hustlers. We used to get people to come and stay at the youth hostel, and I used to ride the trains on the Algarve. And I remember being there, nobody knew where I was in the world, sticking my head out the train, and just that sense of nobody knows who I am, and having that identity. Like I'm not the girl that I went to school with, or that someone's daughter or someone's sister. I'm just this random girl on this train trying to get people to come to this youth. And there was this sense of freedom and wonder that I don't think I've ever experienced since, just sticking my head out the train, just letting the wind hit me and thinking, nobody knows who I am. I'm not my identity. I'm just this being and not attached to an identity. It was so freeing. And
well, to me, that's a moment that is the description of the beginning of a life. That's the life we're meant to live. Not to quote the book again, but that's the life I was always meant to live.
Well, I look forward to seeing the movie and to reading the next in the trilogy and to seeing more from you, Michael Goorjian. It's been a joy and a pleasure. Thank you for...
Thank you so much. I want to come down to Australia.
Come on down. You'd love to create. Like the creative community down here is amazing. Lots of filmmakers come down to make movies at Fox Studios and also in New Zealand. There's a great movie. And also in Broome. Broome is on the other side of the planet, almost on the other side of Australia. Like Sydney's down the bottom and Broome's all the way up the top. There's a lot of film industry going on there because, I've got a lot of friends in the film industry having been in it. It's right. Yeah, there's I think there's a lot of
great thinkers down there too. I mean, Hay House, there's a lot of I feel like Australia, there's a lot of people interested in I don't know what you call it, but spiritual ideas, new age ideas.
A lot of conscious people, definitely.
Yes.
We're a very small population on a very large landmass. So we're only 22 million on this huge landmass. And the thing is, if you go out to outback Australia, like if you're in the country, you're not really bumping up against people that are having this conversation. Not at all. But in the main centres, you know, in the cities, and there are actually a lot of conscious communities, like little villages, little towns of people that get together that want to live a sustainable life, and they're all doing readings and meditating and sound and all this sort of stuff. There's a lot going on. I mean, it's really quite incredible. It's quite amazing. That's what's going on down here. So come on down.
Yeah.
If I had a big business that would brought, like everyone I speak to overseas, they're always like, I want to come down to Australia. One day I'll say to you, right, I'll sponsor you, we'll bring you down one day. That's on, you know, that's the intention. I've got to give
That'll be book number 3.
Book number 3.
Yeah.
But thanks for chatting with us today. And for people who want to get the book, I'm going to put my Amazon link on my webpage. So if you go there, I'll get a couple of cents from the Amazon link. Nobody ever does, but maybe I forget to tell people to do this. But yeah, it's a great read, and I look forward to the next one.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Bye for now.
Yeah, take care. All right.
Thanks for joining me for another show, Accentuating the Positive. Was it Michael Gorgeous? Great to speak to a creative mind. Remember, if you want to join us in the Inner Sanctum, this is deliberate creation for the New World teachers. Each month I invite a guest from one of my shows to come in and talk to us. Please do so on the link below, karenswain.com/the-inner-sanctum. Or if you'd like to have a personal reading, what I do is I check out those subconscious habitual thought forms that are stressing you out, help you work with them instead of against them, help you find yourself and awaken you to your true potential. Thanks again for joining me. Bye for now.
Thanks so much for joining us for another enlightened conversation on Accentuate the Positive. If you would like spiritual guidance from my guides, blissful beings, go to karenswain.com for a reading, or to listen to more enlightened thought leaders share their wisdom. Go to the listen page on karenswain.com and choose who you want to listen to. All the podcasts are also available on iTunes. Remember to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, you name it, we're there. Until next time, bye for now.
If you feel like that's what you want,